So this month we continue with the subsection entitled The Centers and the Rays. We began our last session with a consideration of a triangle formed by the Earth, Mars, and Mercury, made up not of these three schemes, but rather of the globes that carry these names within our Earth chain. We then learned that, quote, Mercury and the center at the base of the spine in the human being are closely allied, suggesting either that Mercury actually stimulates a human being's kundalini, or alternately, and I'm starting to think more and more this way, that Mercury is to the Earth scheme's kundalini as the base of the spine is to human kundalini. So Mercury is to the solar logoic kundalini, as the base of the spine is to our own kundalini. DK expands on this by saying Mercury demonstrates kundalini in intelligent activity, while Mars demonstrates kundalini latent. Then suggests that, quote, the truth lies in their two astrological symbols, which we then explored. Next, we began a new subsection entitled the Grand Man of the Heavens, which of course was a planetary logos, where DK relates the Earth, Mars, and Mercury triangle, just described, to a solar systemic triangle made up of Venus, Earth, and Saturn, which we're told is, quote, becoming slowly fourth dimensional. So as we read about human kundalini and what it takes to gain this fourth dimensional movement, which is actually a stage along the initiatory way, we can assume that the solar system is also undergoing a cosmic version of the initiation that it takes for the centers to become fourth dimensional. The way DK describes these two triangles, to me at least, suggests that they are interlinked. Though he doesn't further develop this connection, information from early in esoteric astrology suggests that the Earth, Mars, Mercury triangle, made up of globes from the Earth chain, may form together the base of the spine chakra of the solar logos, as shown here. So these three, the idea being that these three globes are the components of the Earth point in this Venus-Saturn-Earth triangle. He doesn't tell us that directly, but I think it's a good hypothesis. The EA quote that links the Earth to the base of the spine states, it is the only place anywhere in the blue books that I found this statement, quote, it relates finally the lowest center at the base of the spine to the highest center, the head center. This is a correspondence to the relation of the Earth to the sun. So, he doesn't directly say that the Earth stands as the base of the spine chakra to the solar system or to the sun, but there is at least a strong indication here. DK then reveals that Venus is associated with the solar logoic heart center, much more directly, by the way, than this reference to the Earth, which energizes all the Venus globes and Venus chains throughout the system, and that Saturn is associated with the solar logoic throat center, which energizes all the Saturn globes and Saturn chains throughout the system. DK then introduces, last time we also determined that, at least hypothesized the identity of the globes in the this third Saturn chain because of its close link to a similar chart. So DK then introduces a cosmic triangle made up of our solar system, the Pleiades, and one of the stars of the Great Bear, which together form a triangle in the body of the one about whom not may be said. He goes on to say that the 7 stars of the constellation of the Great Bear are the correspondences to the 7 head centers in the body of that being greater than our logos. Okay, DK can be very subtle in his use of language. For example, this seemingly straightforward statement actually presents a number of ambiguities, of possibilities beyond what seems to be obviously stated. First, the 7 stars being correspondences to the head centers is different than saying that they are the head centers. For example, these 7 head centers might actually be first-ray constellations that act in a similar capacity as the stars of the Great Bear act, and that therefore these 7 stars of the Great Bear are energetically correspond to these 7 head centers. Also, DK doesn't specify whether the being greater than our logos is in fact the one about whom not may be said. We know, for example, that the 7 solar systems of which ours is a part is also a being greater than our logos. At any rate, we then discussed a possible relationship between the cosmic triangle of these 3 centers in the one about whom not may be said, and the 2 triangles previously introduced, suggesting a triple connection between the cosmic and systemic triangles. This is just pure hypothesis, but there are some energetic relationships that suggest that this could be true. Then we learned that our solar system, the Pleiades, and 2 unnamed systems make up the base of the spine, the solar plexus, the heart, and the throat centers, which DK describes as a lower quaternary, but you'll notice this isn't the usual makeup of a lower quaternary. In that being that is greater than our logos. Again, he doesn't say it's the one about whom not may be said. He just says that being that is greater than our logos. So first, a quote from earlier in TCF directly tells us that our solar system embodies the heart center in the one about whom not may be said. It's pretty unambiguous. And because the Pleiades, at least when limited to the 7 sisters, shown here in the lower corner, represents the 3rd aspect of deity, it very possibly relates to the throat center of this quote-unquote greater being. This leaves the 2 unnamed systems to represent the base of the spine and the solar plexus centers. Strictly speculative, but a good hypothesis. But for me, the lack of proportionality between the Pleiades, a constellation of at least 7 stars, representing the throat center, and a mere solar system, representing the heart center of the one about whom not may be said, is puzzling, if not dubious. MDR addresses this lack of proportionality by stating that, quote, our system would represent the heart center within the 7 solar systems, of which ours is one, suggesting that it is actually the logos of these 7 solar systems that in turn forms the true heart center in the one about whom not may be said, rather than just our solar system. If this is the case, then the quote, 2 other systems would probably also be constellations rather than mere solar systems. Okay, by the way, if you have any questions, thoughts, theories, musings, let me know. It's always more interesting to have a bit of a dialogue going on here than me just talking at you for an hour and a half. Okay. The other teaching given, and by the way, we sort of now merged into new material. The other teaching given here is that the listed quaternary, which includes our solar system, the Pleiades, and 2 other systems, will eventually be synthesized into 4 of the 7 head centers, which quote unquote correspond to the 7 stars of the Great Bear. Since our solar system is one of the points of the triangle described at the beginning of this section, we might hypothesize that the star within the Great Bear that forms another point of this triangle represents the heart and the head, which, if this hypothesis is correct, would become, in the unimaginably distant future, the synthesizing point for our solar system, the point of return at the end of our solar logoic manifestation. And again, if this hypothesis is correct, also represents our solar system's spiritual point of origin. Why? Because, as you know, the 7 centers within the head draw up into them as the progression of the Kundalini fire, through the progression of the Kundalini fire, the energy of the chakras along the spine. So if our solar system, or the 7 solar systems of which ours is one, is that heart center, and the one of the stars in the Great Bear is one of these synthesizing centers, then that becomes our solar system's spiritual point of origin and of return. Again, just hypothesis. 2 additional questions might here be asked. Since our solar system is directly related to one of the stars of the Great Bear, would the other 6 solar systems in that group of 7 solar systems, of which ours is one, be synthesized by the other 6 stars of the Great Bear? And we might also ask, since the Pleiades represents the form aspect, does its inclusion in this triangle facilitate the manifestation of our solar system, and by extension, the other 6 solar systems in the group of systems to which our system belongs, right? You have the father, mother, and child aspect in these 3, right? And they'd be represented by this triangle, right? Father, Great Bear, Mother Pleiades, and the 7 solar systems of which ours is one, as the child or the son aspect of the father, mother. Yes, Yvonne.
The picture you just showed before this of the Pleiades what are the asterope and whatever those two little ones? Are they part of the Pleiades also?
They're not. Uh, yeah, they are. They're not part of the seven considered seven sisters, but they're major stars in that constellation. So yes, the seven you could easily extend that to nine. In fact, to 10, because here you also have Seleno, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, Seleno is part of the seven. And then you have Asterope and Pleione as 8 and 9.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, we could probably, you can see these here roughly. This is Alcyone, where my cursor is. Pretty sure. Let me see. Oh, oops. I can't. I was going to click on it to pull that out of the way, and I forgot I was in. Let's see here. If we pull that out of the way. Yeah, this looks like Alcyone, the brightest star. And so then, Maya here, Taygeta here, Selato here, Electra here, Merope here, and then, yeah, Alcyone, and then going over to Atlas here, roughly speaking, maybe Pleione here, and Asterope. It's kind of difficult to say. One of these. Anyway. Okay. Okay. Next up, can we get a reader, please? This takes us back into new text.
And Veronica.
Okay, before I read, I think those two stars are the mother and the father, aren't they?
Which two stars?
The ones that are not with the Pleiades.
Oh,
It's the mother and the
Pleione
father, I
and
remember.
Asterope?
Yes, I think Michael said it's the seven Pleiades and the mother and the father,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
as far as I remember.
Okay. Within that system. All right.
Yes.
And of course, the entire Pleiades is seen as the mother aspect in relation
Yes.
to our solar system and presumably the seven solar systems to which ours belongs.
But I see the two names are female names. I think Atlas was the father. I don't know. I've got to look it up. I don't remember.
Okay, interesting. Okay, go ahead if you would.
Okay. The sevenfold head center, in its turn, finds ultimate expression in the gorgeous twofold centers above the top of the head and surrounding it. Equally so, beyond the above-named constellation, is still another cosmic center. The name of this center is one of the secrets of the final initiation, the seventh. These are the only correspondences that may as yet be imparted. What lies beyond the solar ring post not may be of intellectual interest, but for the purpose of microcosmic evolution, it is a matter of no vast import.
Thank you, Anne Veronica. So first, sevenfold head center in its turn finds ultimate expression. So we're talking about the Great Bear. Finds ultimate expression in the gorgeous twofold center above the top of the head and surrounding it. So that could be, the 12 petals in closing the 1,000-petal lotus. That's the twofold, or it could be the ajna center and that entire head center. Equally so, beyond the above named constellations is still another cosmic center. The name of this center is one of the secrets of the final initiation, the seventh. This is out there. Okay, so I'm seeing three successive levels here described. First, the Great Bear, whose 7 stars correspond to the 7 head centers correspond, right? The 7 head centers of the one about whom not may be said. Second, another constellation superior to the Great Bear, representing the quote, gorgeous twofold head center above the top of the head. And then third, the one about whom not may be said itself, to which the Great Bear and this superior constellation belong. And fourth, altogether beyond the one about whom not may be said, another constellation whose name is given at the 7th initiation. Now, alternatively to this last idea, that this fourth constellation represents one of the higher centers that is associated with the one about whom not may be said, even above the head center. But DK doesn't, as a rule, talk much about these centers that lie above the head center. So I'm thinking that it's a superior constellation altogether. And also that's suggested by the fact that its name is not given out until the 7th initiation. Okay, so if we extend the line of progression here given by DK, wherein a lesser system forms a constituent part within the next greater system, we might hypothesize that the quintessential being here described has for its chakras 7 cosmic beings at the level of the one about whom not may be said. It's just a theory. This takes us altogether beyond the levels described in this tabulation, whose highest level, called here the unknown, is probably the one about whom not may be said. I say that because its vehicle is made up of 7 constellations, and we know that to be true about the one about whom not may be said. But in this chart, reprinted from an early issue of the Theosophist magazine, we have, using the law of septenates, a template for determining the relative position of these higher logoi. So let's, just for fun, follow the septenary progression, starting at the very lowest point. First, we have 7 subraces, forming each of 7 root races. Next, we have 7 root races, manifesting on and through each of the 7 globes of a planetary chain. Next, we have 7 globes making up each planetary chain, demonstrating in time and space through 7 rounds. Then we have 7 chains, making up each of the 7 planetary schemes. Then we have 7 planetary schemes, making up each of 7 solar systems. Then 7 solar systems, which individually form the chakras of the logoi of these 7 solar systems, and who in turn forms one of the chakras in the one about whom not may be said. And then finally, 7 cosmic beings at the level of the one about whom not may be said, and this is hypothetical, forming the chakras in that quintessential being here described by DK. Okay, so that kind of helps us get us a handle on just what he's talking about here. Any thoughts or questions about this progression, or how this is arrived at, or the laws of the septenary? It's the means by which as above, so below functions. I don't know, check the, yeah. Just checking the chats. Okay. If we continue our upward extension using the as above, so below septenary paradigm, there must be many, many stages between the cosmic logos here described and the highest point of universal being, with the emphasis on universal, shown at the top of this chart. For example, the logos of a galaxy, which DK never mentions, presumably because information about such a being is either completely unknown on Earth or is a secret only given at an even higher initiation than the seventh, a secret that could be part of the initiatory rites for a planetary scheme, the solar logos or beyond. At any rate, we can still speculate that the logos of a galaxy would certainly be made up of many, possibly even myriads of the cosmic beings described by DK. Extending even further, it's humbling to reflect on the fact that the James Webb Telescope has currently discovered close to 200 billion galaxies. This, by the way, represents less than 1 minute of arc in space. It's like a pinpoint in space, right? And of course, these 200 billion, and you know there's many more than that, are almost certainly septenary components of even greater and more inclusive beings, and which finally, in their totality, form the cosmic paradigm depicted here for all manifestation, even of a multiverse. If there are, for instance, 7 universes that represents the 7 spheres before the throne of God, you would finally have this first, second, and third logoic presence of Parabrahman that would represent the entire universal manifestation. Okay, back to the text for DK's final statement in this subsection entitled The Centers and the Rays. I'll read this and then get to you, Joe. These are the only correspondences that may as yet be imparted. What lies beyond the solar ring past knot may be of intellectual interest or for the purposes of microcosmic evolution, that's us folks. It is a matter of no vast import. So as cosmic as DK sometimes gets, the purpose of the Blue Books is ultimately characterized by that which is practical and useful for microcosmic evolution. Though DK is often perceived as having an intellectual writing style, his purpose is never only to stimulate the intellect. Okay, Joe.
I've been searching my mind looking for a connection. I start with the system of our own physical being, and then the next thought occurs to me is that the Kabbalah has 10 levels, and when we reach Keter, it turns into the first level of the next 10.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea, which makes the entire tree of life, the Kabbalic Sephirothal system. Let's get back over to this. Fractal. For instance, we could use that tree of life just within our own solar system, and then that Kether would be the origins of the solar logos, like on the cosmic mental plane. That would be the Kether reality, right? Or Keter, or whatever it is, right? And then because you have that universal synthesizing agent, which is Kether, and then Chokmah and Bina as the male-female duality, that would be very much the first, second, and third logos of any system. And of course, you could also apply it to the entire universe, to all of creation, in which case the lower seven then would represent the seven spirits before the throne and all of their many components. Thanks for that. That's an important association. Thanks for that, Joe.
And then the second part that you read, I just last week said, I don't think I need to look further for a while. There's a lot of activity down here.
Yeah, we're just trying to get in touch with our soul aspect. That's why he says, it may be of intellectual interest, but not important to microcosmic evolution. Okay, so the footnote, referenced by the, is that it? Yeah. Yeah, here it is. Footnote referenced by the phrase, what lies beyond the solar ring pass not, may be of intellectual interest, is comprised of various comments on the Pleiades. Interestingly enough, the first page cited includes this statement: the sun, having Alcyone in the Pleiades for the center of its orbit, consumes 180 millions of years in completing its revolution. So, I'm starting to get a sense of why DK includes the footnote references that he does in TCF. He considers them vital information, but information that has been well covered in the secret doctrine. The vast majority of these footnotes reference the secret doctrine. There are some others, but that are important enough to include in the Treatise on Cosmic Fire curriculum. And that's why, he's not going to restate all this vast material. And by the way, whenever I quote these, there's way more here than just this. But in the interest of time, I'm just grabbing what I consider the most important statements from these various footnote references. The next page references, by the way, this is the actual page that these come from. Next page referenced includes the following. It appears from the description of the Hindu zodiac given by M.C. Gentile that on it, the places of the stars named the Eye of Taurus and the wheat ear of Virgo, that's Alcyone, can be determined for the commencement of the Kali Yuga, also called the Kali Yuga, the dark or iron period of time. The next referenced page focuses on the connection between the Pleiades and the rishis of the Great Bear. Could we get a reader, please? Which, by the way, DK talks about quite a bit, but here we have a secret doctrine take on this connection.
Andy, did you want to read?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. Gordon.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Andy.
Okay, good. I actually fixed the problem on my computer as far as the microphone is concerned. I'm so proud of me.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Okay, Andy, great.
Okay, so I can read that.
This is Ariane, right? Now you normally That's also the way you go by, right? Ariane?
Andy, Andréane,
Andrea. Okay. We'll call you Andy. It's easier.
yeah. That's what they,
Ariane is a different person.
Oh, it is? I'm not so sure.
Yeah,
Is
Andy's
Ariane a
from
different person?
I am sure.
Yeah, Andy's in Canada. Ariane's somewhere else.
Oh, thanks for the clarification. Sorry about that. Especially
Ah,
to Ariane.
I hope I don't disappoint, okay?
No, you won't. Go ahead.
So I start at the beginning.
Yeah, just start here. Here's a
Here's
point.
a point. Here's a point that could help to determine approximately, at least, the age when the symbolism of the seven rishis and their connection to the Pleiades began. When
Kartikeya.
Kartikeya was delivered to them by the gods to be nursed, the Kritika were only six, whence Kartikeya is represented with six heads, but when the poetical fancy of the early Aryan symbologists made of them the consort of the seven rishi, they were seven. Wow. Their names are given, and these are Emba, Dula, Nitatwit, Abrayanti, Magayanti, Vashayanti, and Shupunika. They are the other sets of names which differ, however. Anyhow, the seven rishis were made to marry the seven Kritika before the disappearance of the seven Pleiades. Otherwise, how could the Hindu astronomer speaks of that which is without the help of the strongest telescopes? No one can see. This is why perhaps in every such case, the majority of the events described in the Hindu allegories is fixed upon the very recent invention, certainly within the Christian era.
Thank you, Andy.
That is big, okay? That is like, that is very enlightening when it comes to the Rishi and, the Pleiades.
Yeah. Yeah. DK tends to stick with the cosmological theory. HPB gives us a lot of background in Hindu mythology and other mythologies too that lead up to these cosmic theories that DK espounds. And so the two together, I find, paint a much more complete picture.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andy. Okay, and the final footnote reference gives us wait a minute. No, we got one more. Next, we have more on the Pleiades as the central group of our system. Can we get a reader, please?
Yeah, now Gordon. You want to read?
Okay. However that may be, the Pleiades are the central group of the system of sidereal symbology. They are situated in the neck of the constellation of Taurus, regarded by Maudler and others in astronomy as the central group of the system of the Milky Way, and in the Kabbalah and Eastern esotericism as the sidereal septenate born from the first manifested side of the upper triangle, the concealed triangle. This manifested side is Taurus, the symbol of one, or of the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph, bull or ox, whose synthesis is 10, or Yod, the perfect letter and number. Pleiades, Alcyone especially, are thus considered, even in astronomy, as a central point around which our universe of fixed stars revolves, and the focus from which and into which the divine breath, motion, works incessantly during the Manvantara. Hence, in the occult philosophy and its sidereal symbols, it is a circle and the starry cross on its face, which play the most prominent part.
Thank you. Any thoughts or questions about this? You know, one thing that occurred to me as you were reading is that that Alcyone and the Pleiades could represent one of seven central points around which our local universe of fixed stars revolves, and those seven making up this galaxy, the Milky Way. Or, you know, alternately, somehow, some way, the Pleiades could be the actual central point of the galaxy, but that just doesn't seem to hold with astronomical, especially recent astronomical understanding vis-a-vis the black hole that stands in the center of the galaxy, for instance. And so it would seem more likely that you would have seven great revolving centers that compose our galaxy of the Milky Way. Yes, Jerry.
These passages are reminding me of another statement by DK on the relationship of the Great Bear and the Pleiades, which is that there is a difference between these two systems, which is the source of evil for our solar system. And I'm and especially the part about the marriage between the seven stars, I'm just wondering if that might be related, or what your thoughts are in these passages in regard to this this
Cosmic evil, this
cosmic
idea of cosmic evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, supposedly cosmic evil, well, not supposedly. DK tells us that cosmic evil has its center on the cosmic astral plane. And so it's, which would mean it's like it forms the negative pole of the source of love, which is what the cosmic astral plane is to our solar system. He says almost nothing about that particular center. But one of the ways that DK describes evil in general is orientation towards the form aspect. So I don't think any of the pictures that come to mind when we think of evil would be relevant to cosmic evil. I think it's an energetic that forms a dyad with the positive pole in the cosmic astral plane. Yeah, that's probably all I can say about that. You can see why it would have an association with the Pleiades, because the Pleiades are oriented towards form creation, for manifestation. For instance, all the electricity, the photic demonstration in our solar system has its origin in the Pleiades. It's a gift from the Pleiades. So, you know, if you're trying to escape the cosmic physical plane, and all aspects of our solar system are indeed on those seven subplanes of the cosmic physical plane, you could eventually gain the perspective that all manifestation on and through those seven planes is quote unquote evil, right? If you look at it as a function of the form aspect. But I think at this point, the word truly loses its meaning. I've always liked this fact that the word evil and live, L-I-V-E, are reversal of each other. And I think, that's, besides just being a cute fact, it could be that it does represent a kind of negative polarity of the life aspect. That's all I can do with it. Hopefully I don't find out anymore. Did I see somebody else's hand? At least through firsthand experience.
Yeah,
Okay.
Joe.
Yeah, Joe.
I'm working with a theory that suggests that Aries, Taurus, and Gemini are one of a quadrant in 4 quadrants. And from that first quadrant that I just mentioned, we humanity escape out to the Pleiades and through the gates of Gemini. So here's, yeah, in other words, I'll say it again, that I see all the zodiac itself becoming a quaternary. And out of that first quaternary, we reach to the Pleiades. And I also am aware that Pleiades represents the third ray on descent, and then that is where humanity connects with the activity.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because the the idea of the 4 lords of karma are very connected with that quaternary. You find it, for instance, in the Native American zodiac, where the signs are related directly to one of the 4 winds, and 4 winds can represent each of the 4 quaternaries of the zodiac, but each of the signs, you could say, are expressions of that wind, are 3 expressions of that wind that represents that quadrant of the zodiac, right? And I'm thinking also here of the 4 Maharajas, that stand at the 4 quarters of the globe, the 4 cardinal directions, who are these great energies, which I'm sure these 4 winds are actually going to be related to those 4 Maharajas. And certainly they would, but what's unique, at least probably not unique, but special about the Native American system is that they play an important part in determining the nature of the signs in that quaternary. So thanks, Joe.
I'd like to add that Greg and I visited several years ago now the Great Medicine Wheel in Wyoming at about 12,000 feet, I think. And it focuses to this area of the sky on Alcyone and then further on to Aldebaran. And nobody knows which tribe did it. The current tribes don't know where that wheel came from.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The whole idea of the central point is represented there. With the Pleiades, it's not just some random constellation in the sky, but it's the central point of our local universe. In local being quite a large contingent. Magda.
Yes, you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Good. From what I understand, DK is telling us in these pages you've been reading about 3 triangles. One is the triangle that says Earth, Mars, and Mercury. And that let me think of the so-called little mystery of the Earth, Mars, and the Earth, Mercury that Steiner talks about. And that's the first triangle related to the round of globes we're in. The second triangle is that one formed by Earth, Saturn, and Venus. And Saturn and Venus are the first and the sixth planet in our round of globe. Meaning, you said that the inner realm is represented by the triangle Earth, Mars, Mercury, and the inner realm is a Pralaya. Did I understand okay?
That's what he tells us. Yeah.
Okay. So we are right now. I would need to show you the scheme that sees. Okay, Saturn, Sun, Moon, then Mars, Earth, Mercury, and then Jupiter, Venus, and Mars.
You're fading. Magda, I don't know what's happening, but your mic is fading out.
I was just looking at a scheme. Okay, we have Saturn, Sun, Moon, then Mars, Earth, Mercury, then Jupiter 5, Venus 6, Vulcan 7.
Right. Are you looking at a map of our chain?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Let me
around,
get
around. And let me finish because the second triangle is Earth, Saturn, Venus, which is the first and the sixth globe of our round of globes. So we have Earth, Mars, Mercury, which is the inner realm, kind of a small pralaya inside our round of globes. Then we have the triangle Earth, Saturn, Venus, which is first and sixth, which is an outer triangle of our round of globes. And then DK tells us about the triangle with Pleiades and Great Bear, okay? And he's been telling us all along, if I'm thinking okay, that Earth and then our Earth chain and our Earth scheme are the Muladhara, are the base of the spine of microcosmically our round, then medium cosmically our chain, and microcosmically our scheme. So if that is correct, or if that's the case, I don't know. Well, then last we've been talking again about the seven Pleiades, which is the female spouses, and the seven Great Bears, the male spouses that give birth to seven spirits before the thrones, which are the Kumaras. Right. So all this to say that also looking at the tree of life, of course, the three levels above the head being the three Ein Sof levels. And you're saying now these three levels above Keter, above the crown, are the three constellations.
That's what he describes. He describes three levels, beginning with the head. Three levels above the head. You're right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I would comment on what you said, first of all, I really appreciate your interest in all this, is that the Earth, Mars, and Mercury globes together form, at least it's my hypothesis, the base of the spine center in the solar logos, not necessarily the base of the spine center in the Earth scheme. If we look, if we go back here and look at this chart of the chain, we would actually have to look at the scheme map to get a sense. But the seven out of those seven chains, it's very likely that either the first or seventh chain would form the base of the spine of the scheme. But of course, all of this is pure speculation. The one argument you could make for the fourth chain being the base of the spine is that it's the most dense of all the chains, and that the Earth globe is the most dense of all the globes. So there is that argument that could be made, but yeah, thank you. Interesting stuff. Okay, back up to where we left off here. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions? Okay, and you can see I'm just highlighting pieces. These references go on for pages, so it's a whole study, in and of itself. And there's equally as interesting quotes that I didn't highlight here. Okay, but we will pick up one final reference. The final footnote reference gives us a very esoteric teaching on the Pleiades. Could we get a reader, please?
Janet, do you want to read?
Sure, Michael. 7 in astronomy, science, and magic. Am I loud enough?
You're good.
Okay. Again, number 1 is closely connected with the occult significance of the Pleiades, those 7 daughters of Atlas, the 6th present and the 7th hidden. In India, they are connected with their nursing, the war god Kartikeya. It is the Pleiades in Sanskrit Kritika who gave the god their name. For Karkia is the planet Mars. Astronomically, as a god, he was the son of Ruda, born without the intervention of a woman. He is Kumara, a virgin youth again, generated in the fire from the seed of Siva. The Holy Spirit, hence called Agni Bhu. The late Dr. Finelli believed that in India, Kartikeya is a secret symbol of the cycle of Naros, composed of 600, 666, and 777 years, according to whether it is a solar or lunar, divine or mortal, years that are counted, and the 6th visible or the 7th actual sisters, the Pleiades, are needed for the completion of the most secret and mysterious of all the astronomical and religious symbols. Therefore, when made to commemorate, thank you, one particular event, Kartikeya appeared of old as a Kumara, an ascet with 6 heads, 1 for each century of the Narrows. When the symbolism was needed for another event, then in conjunction with the 7 sidereal sisters, Kartikeya is seen accompanied by
Kumara.
Kumara or Sina as female aspect. He is then riding on a peacock, the bird of wisdom and occult knowledge, and the Hindu phoenix, whose Greek relation with the 600 years of Naros is well known. A 6-ray starred double triangle, a swastika, a 6th and occasionally 7-pointed crown is on his brow. The peacock's tail represents the sidereal heaven, and the 12 signs of the zodiac are hidden on his body.
So this is about as esoteric as it gets. Probably also very blinded. There's a lot of blinds in here. Certainly in these numbers, they're not literal years. Also, Mars, it would be the energy that animates Mars at a cosmic level that would be represented here, not just our planet, our little tiny planet Mars in this little solar system. When you're talking about the origins of the Pleiades here. To get to the bottom of what's described here would take a lot of research. You would need to go deep into these references, in the secret doctrine, and in order to build your base of understanding for what's being said here, be well worthwhile. But it also just gives you a taste of the magic of the secret doctrine, how that, in contrast to the way DK formulates his material. So that's probably the main reason I included it. Any thoughts, questions about this? All right. Next up, we start the third of 5 subsections of this chapter on motion and the centers. This subsection, which is less than 2 pages long, is made up of a series of brief statements that review the nature of Kundalini. So could we get a reader for this, please?
Joe, want to read?
There
You
I
there, Carol? Oh, there you go.
got it. 3. The centers and Kundalini. As stated, it is not possible to impart much about Kundalini or the serpent fire. It might be of value, however, briefly to enumerate what has been said. A. Kundalini lies at the base of the spine, and in the normal average man, its main function is the vitalization of the body. B. Kundalini makes 3 at-one-ments during the period of evolution. 1. With the radiatory fires of the body or prana at a point between the shoulder blades. 2. With the fires of mind at a point at the very top of the spine, in the center of the back part of the throat. 3. With the fire of spirit at the point where these 2 united fires of matter and of mind issue from the top of the head.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, first, as stated, it is not possible to impart much about Kundalini or the serpent fire. So I looked at a bunch of passages and hit on this passage from The Light of the Soul, which begins with an old commentary and graphically summarizes the purpose and nature of what DK here calls the serpent fire. So can we get a reader for this, please?
Kirsten, is that you? I usually only see Kirsten with without a last name. So did you want to read?
Yes.
Okay.
I seek the way. I yearn to know. Visions I see, and fleeting deep impressions. Behind the portal, on the other side, lies that which I call home, for the circle hath been well nigh trod, and the end approaches the beginning. I seek the way, all ways my feet have trod. The way of fire calls me with fierce appeal. Not in me seeks the way of peace, not in me yearns for earth. Let the fire rage, the flames devour, let all the dross be burnt, and let me enter through that gate and tread the way of fire. The breath of God is felt as the cleansing breeze, also as is a response of the soul to the aspiration of a disciple. The soul then inspires the lower man. The secondary meaning has, of course, direct reference to the work of the Kundalini or serpent fire at the base of the spine, as it responds to the soul vibration felt in the head, in the region of the pineal gland, and called the light in the head. Mounting upward, It burns out all obstructions in the spinal etheric channel and vitalizes or electrifies the 5 centers of the spine and the 2 in the head. The vital airs within the ventricles, ventricles of the head are also swept into activity and produce a cleansing, or rather eliminating effect therein. The student has as yet nothing to do beyond seeing to it that as far as in him lies, the aspiration of his heart is of the needed fiery character, and that the steady purification of his physical, emotional, and mental nature proceeds as desired. When this is the case, the response of the soul will be effective, and the consequent reactions within the etheric centers will take place safely, under law, and normally.
Thank you, Kirsten. Okay, next. It might be of value, however, briefly, to enumerate what has been said. A. Kundalini lies at the base of the spine, and in the normal, average man, its main function is the vitalization of the body. Okay. So Kundalini is a dual fire, both latent and active, which lies at the base of the etheric spine. Vitalization occurs through the pranic triangle, which we learned about back on page 122. Could we get somebody to read this brief passage, please? Also, keep in mind that DK relates Mercury to the active and Mars to the latent qualities of Kundalini.
Magda, do you want to read?
The first stage is that wherein the pranic fluid and solar radiations are received and circulated 3 times around the triangle, thence being distributed to the periphery of the body, animating and vitalizing all the physical organs and conducing to the automatic subconscious workings of the body of dense matter.
Thank you, Magda. So it doesn't matter what level you're of becoming you are at. This triangle is functioning. It works. It functions more effectively in the excelled, in the advanced human being, but it is always functioning in anyone who incarnates. Okay. Next, we have Kundalini makes 3 at-one-ments during the period of evolution. 1, with the radiatory fires of the body or prana at a point between the shoulder blades. So DK continues his review of material covered earlier in TCF. Could we get a reader for this passage, please?
Oh, no. Nasa, you want to read?
The third stage is that in which active radiatory matter or prana is blended ever more perfectly with the fire latent in matter. This results, as will be brought out later, in certain effects. It produces a quickening of the normal vibration of the physical body so that it responds with more readiness to the higher note of the ego, and causes a steady rising of the blending fires through the threefold channel in the spinal column. In the second stage, this vitalizing blended fire reaches a center between the lower part of the shoulder blades, which is the point of conjunction and of complete merging of the fire from the base of the spine and the fires circulating along the pranic triangle. It will be remembered how one point of this triangle originates there. When the threefold basic fire and the threefold pranic fire meet and merge, then evolution proceeds with greatly increased velocity.
Thank you, Nisa. Okay, next, with the two fires of mind at a point at the very top of the spine, in the center of the back part of the throat. DK is probably referring to the alta major center, which you may remember synthesizes four lesser centers. Could we get a reader for this, please?
Scott, do you want to read?
Sure. Simultaneously with the activity of these fires of matter and of spirit, the fires of mind, or manas, burn with greater intensity. These are the fires given at individualization. They are fed continuously by the fire of matter, and their heat is augmented by solar emanatory fire, which originates on the cosmic levels of mind. As time progresses, the fire of mind burns more brightly and thus reaches a point where it begins to burn through the etheric web, that portion of the web that can be found guarding the center at the very top of the head and admitting entrance to the downflow from the spirit.
Thanks, Scott. And finally, with the fire of spirit at the point where these two united fires of matter and of mind issue from the top of the head. Can we get a reader for this final one?
And Yvonne, do you want to read?
Sure. I was trying to unmute myself. As the fire of the Kundalini and Prana proceed with their work, and the channel becomes more and more cleared, the centers more active, and the body purer, the flame of spirit, or the fire from the ego, comes more actively downwards till a flame of real brilliance issues from the top of the head. This flame surges upwards through the bodies towards its source, the causal body.
Thank you. Okay, thoughts or questions on any of this? All of this material is found on pages 123 through 125 of TCF, which we read last year. Okay, next up, can we get a reader, please?
And let's see, back to the top. And Veronica.
C. Each of the three channels within the spinal column have for specific purpose the blending of these threefold fires. We need to bear in mind that the fires circulate and that at the moment of achievement, every triangle in the body is vivified, every center is fully functioning, and the threefold path of fire can be seen extending the entire length of the backbone. D. When Kundalini is blended with the pranic fire, the centers become three-dimensional. When it blends with mind or solar fire, and the two fires are perfectly united, the centers become fourth-dimensional. When it blends with electric fire or pure spirit, after the third initiation, they take on two more dimensions. E. Kundalini, as it is aroused steadily, increases the vibratory action not only of the centers, but of every atom of matter in all the bodies, etheric, astral, and mental.
Thank you, Aunt Veronica. Okay, first, each of the three channels within the spinal column have for specific purpose the blending of these threefold fires. So here we learned that the major function of the spinal channels, of these three spinal channels, is the blending of the threefold fires that circulate, not just rise, but circulate through the Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna channels. We might assume that each of the 3 points of each triangle formed between the centers is regulated by one of these channels. DK's use of the word, quote, channel emphasizes the etheric rather than the physical spinal column. A passage from Esoteric Healing gives us more information on, and more specifics on the 3 channels of the spinal column. Could we get a reader, please?
Andy, do you want to read again?
Are you there, Andy? Let's go to someone else.
Okay, Jerry, you just volunteered.
The 3 channels up the spine are responsive in their totality to the 3 major centers. A, to the solar plexus center, providing thus the impulse of desire and feeding the physical life and the creative urge. B, to the heart center, providing the impulse to love and the conscious contact with ever-widening areas of divine expression. C, to the head center, providing the dynamic impulse of the will to live. I do not indicate which channel is responsive to which center, except in the case of the Sushumna channel, which is responsive only to the energy of the head center and the directing will centered in the 1,000-petaled lotus. This can be safely stated, as the spiritual will is as yet undeveloped in those who seek to arouse Kundalini. When it is aroused, they will know what they can safely do. The 3 centers in the head are also related to this triple channel. A, the medulla oblongata area, the alta major center, and the carotid gland. B, the ajna center and the pituitary body. C, the 1,000-petaled lotus and the pineal gland. Students will find it interesting to relate all these triplicities to the 3 major rays.
Thank you, Jerry. So, these aren't the only centers that the 3 channels are related to. And we learned that here when he says that in addition to the solar plexus, the heart and the head centers, you have these 3 centers in the head that are related to the triple channel. My guess is that these are the 3 major centers. There's also 3 principles connected here: solar plexus, seat of the personality, the heart center, seat of the soul, and the head center, seat of the monads influence. And so that's going on here. And we know that the central channel, this Sushumna, is the one related to the head center, and also almost certainly to the 1,000-petaled lotus and the pineal gland here referenced, right? So, through correspondence, you could, make educated guesses as to, for instance, which center the throat center and the ajna center and the sacral center would be related to. Okay. Right. Next, we need to bear in mind that the fires circulate and that at the moment, of achievement, every triangle in the body is vivified. Every center is fully functioning, and a 3-fold path of fire can be seen extending the entire length of the backbone. So the moment of achievement corresponds with the opening of the three inner petals of the egoic lotus, not the central tier, but the actual three inner petals, the 10th, 11th, and 12th petals. And this happens at the third and fourth initiations. So let's take a closer look at the composition of the three triangles that circulate their respective fires, which is what he's been talking about for the last bit. Can we get a reader, please?
Gordon, you want to read again?
Yes. Kundalini and the three triangles. Fire energizing the triangle in the head is the higher correspondence to the triangle of prana, midway in the body, and its lower reflection at the base of the spine. We have, therefore, in the human unit, three important triangles. One, in the head, the triangle of the three major center. A, the pineal gland, B, pituitary body, 3, the alta major center. 2, in the body, the triangle of prana. A, between the shoulders, B, above the diaphragm, C, the spleen. 3, at the base of the spine, the three lower centers. A point at the bottom of the spinal column. B and C, the two major sex organs in the male and female.
Okay, so, hopefully this is becoming familiar to you once again, because we've now gone over this quite a bit. Of course, these triangles merge with each other. First, they're formed, and their components become brighter over time. And then a connection is formed between A, B, and C of each triangle. And then the fire begins to circulate and connect with the next triangle up. So the fire of matter connects with the triangle of prana, and they eventually merge. And then together, this becomes the material triangle, right? The triangle of matter, and forms a relationship with the triangle in the head. And the fire is exchanged until they merge, and that happens at the third and fourth initiations. Okay. This passage describes the nature and quality of the circulation between these three triangles. Can we get a reader, please?
The three major head centers, the sequence varying according to Ray, become active, and a similar process is effected between them as was effected in the pranic triangle. From being three centers that react faintly to each other's vibratory movement, feeling the warmth and rhythm of each other, yet separated. The fire leaps from center to center, and each whirling wheel becomes linked by a chain of fire till there is a triangle of fire through which the Kundalini and the pranic fires radiate back and forth. Circulation is also carried on. The fire of Kundalini produces the heat of the center and its intense radiance and brilliance, while the pranic emanatory fire produces ever-increasing activity and rotation.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, I see Megda has her hand up. Go ahead, Megda.
Which initiation does this level of fusion of atomic fusion correspond? Like you just mentioned it before, but I didn't hear it. But right now at this period here, final, where we put the point here, at which stage of initiation are we for theosophical scheme?
It's the third and fourth initiations that this sequence rapidly concludes. So I think at the third and through the under the influence of the rod of initiation at the third, all the triangles become fully active and merge. At the fourth, the entire system burns up, you could say, and you transcend the causal body is shattered, and you transcend this entire lower quaternary.
Thank you.
Okay, I see more hands. Good. Who's up? Mikhail, you want to call on him?
Yeah, Jerry.
Go ahead.
So, Francis, there's a mystery that I'm trying to solve about the carotid gland, since we're on this topic. And you know, around 1970, medical science began talking about carotid glands on the side of the carotid arteries. It's not at the back of the head. And these carotid glands have to do with red blood cell circulation. And I'm wondering what your view is about what is the carotid gland that the Tibetan is referring to.
I think it's a glandular exponent of the alto major center. That's my understanding. The names are often used interchangeably, but I think the alto major is an energetic center. It's like the difference between the heart, the actual organ, and the heart center, which is not even, where the heart is. And I think you have the same kind of situation with the carotid and the alto major, which lies back, because he tells us it's in the gap in the back of the spine.
So, for all of the centers, there is an active gland that's identified, but the carotid gland it's not clear what that actual manifested gland is and where it's located. Do you think that it's the carotid glands of medicine, or do you think it's something closer to the actual alto major center at the back of the head?
I don't know. That's a good question. That would take a deeper dive than I've made. Because I don't know the varying levels of the carotid gland itself. For instance, the difference between what is esoterically considered the carotid gland and what, for instance, you could bring up every reference in DK and HPB would be a good start to carotid, and then read a straightforward medical description of the carotid gland and do a comparison that way. That's how I would start, to and then look at all the references to the alto major, which there are a few, and see if you can form a connection that way. But I haven't done that work.
Thank you.